What's up, y'all? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carvey Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. My name's Bryson Carver. And you may have heard Golden State Warriors are headed to the NBA Finals for the sixth time in the last 8 years. Dethroning the Dallas Mavericks. Y'all already know we ain't going nowhere. Y'all already know what it's about. 6 finals appearances, 8 years. Nobody thought we'd get to this point. I tried to tell y'all from the season started. This is what we about. Bad boys for life, man. Woo! Either Boston or Miami. I think it's going to be Boston. He's going to have to deal with this. Splash Brothers. Splash triplets with Jordan Poole. The best defensive player on earth with Draymond Green. This is what we do, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on. I'm the definition of
best basketball team on the planet. This is what we do. So, of course, I will start the show with that. I will also discuss the Celtics and the Heat. Game 6 is tonight. I think this baby is a wrap. Boston's a huge favorite by Vegas. I'm definitely going with them to win tonight, and I'll explain why later in the show. As well as Dak Prescott, my guy. Y'all know I love Dak Prescott. I think that this is going to be a much better season than people are giving him credit for one specific reason that Dak detailed the other day. I'm going to discuss that, as well as Luka Doncic, who had a pretty great postseason, but there are some certain things that I looked at that are, let's just say, concerning. We'll leave it at that. Some concerning things with Luka Doncic in terms of whether he can continue this in the postseason moving on, as well as Steph Curry's legacy. The Steph Curry slander, folks, I don't get it. I don't get it. There's a couple stats I want to give y'all about the greatness of one Wardell Stephen Curry II. It's going to shock y'all. It's going to blow y'all's minds. He is on the precipice. He's not there yet, but he's on the precipice of being one of the 10 greatest basketball players who ever did it, as he heads to his 6th NBA Finals. Speaking of Steph Curry, speaking of the Golden State Warriors, yesterday was a good night for me as a Warriors fan, for all of Dub Nation. And, going into this series, what I thought would happen is you see a Dallas Mavericks team with Luka Doncic who's on fire. They beat the Utah Jazz in 6 games, playing half those games without Luka. And then they upset the Phoenix Suns in 7 games in the second round, including winning a dominating a Game 7 on the road against the Phoenix Suns with the best record in basketball. So they come into the series, and everybody and their mama was picking Dallas because Luka's the best player in the series, is what I heard. And Jason Kidd's a better coach than Steve Kerr. Heard that too. They're deeper. Home court advantage ain't going to matter, even though Golden State still has yet to lose a home game in these playoffs. But everybody picked Dallas. And I got ultimate respect for the Dallas Mavericks. They had an unbelievable season. Nobody thought they'd get to this point. So mad respect to those guys. To Jason Kidd, who I was dead wrong coming into this season. Helped Dallas become one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. Mad respect to him. And Luka Doncic, we know what that man represents. Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie, great scorers for them. Got guys, obviously, shot makers like Bullock and Kleba. Respect. But they were no match for one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. I heard a lot of folks saying these last couple of weeks, oh, the dynasty's back? Like, the heck you talking about? He ain't back. Because to come back, that means you would have had to leave. Folks, we never left. We just took a 2-year hiatus. For the record, so the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. We talk about the Bulls as though, they're like this divine dynasty or something. Jordan retired. Well, they still won 55 games, made the playoffs, lost to the Knicks in the second round. Jordan came back. They lost the second round again to the Orlando Magic. Okay? And then they came back and won 3 straight championships. Not saying the Warriors are going to win 3 straight championships necessarily. But these last 2 years have been a hiatus. I kept telling y'all, once this team gets healthy, they're the favorites to not win the West, to win the whole darn thing. They have not been healthy, going back to 2019, they have not been fully healthy until these playoffs. Because they get off to that 18-2 start, but Klay Thompson's out. Well, Klay comes back in January to that ceremonious return on January the 9th, a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but Draymond got hurt around that same time. Draymond misses 2 months, and when Draymond comes back, then Steph goes down. And finally, Steph comes back, initially comes off the bench in the postseason because of the emergence of Jordan Poole. And so you look at everything that's going on with this basketball team, and this is not surprising to me as a Warriors fan. I don't think it should be surprising to you. 2019-2020 had the worst record in the league. Well, Steph Curry breaking his hand and missing basically the entire season. Klay being out the whole year with an ACL tear. Losing Andre Iguodala, losing Livingston, Kevin Durant, that guy left. Draymond Green playing half the games. Yeah, you're probably not going to be very good. The following year, Klay Thompson tears his Achilles. Yeah, you're probably not championship contenders without Klay Thompson. That's just my guess. This is why I said coming into this year, the second that Klay Thompson comes back, it's over. And we saw that once again. And so for these Golden State Warriors, who I believe are the best team in the NBA at this particular point in time, I think when you see how you look at the ball movement, you look at guys, cutting, ball screens, the intensity they bring to the defensive end of the floor. They don't play like everybody else. Frankly, because not everybody else can play like them. And so with this series, I heard all about how you're going to guard Luka. And my response was, well, Luka's going to get his because he's a great player. Luka's a top 5 player in this league. He's going to get his. But Draymond Green, everybody acted like Draymond Green was the only elite defender on the Warriors. Ever heard of Andrew Wiggins? Klay Thompson, he can still defend. Kevon Looney, I keep trying to tell y'all, Kevon Looney, for his size, is a pretty solid perimeter defender. And you saw that in the fourth quarter against Jalen Brunson. Locked that dude up. Did a good job on Luka in the opportunities he got to guard him in the pick and roll. Kuminga. Moses Moody coming off the bench and giving them a spark again. Moses Moody's had a really good series. This is who these Warriors are. Strength in numbers is what this team was founded on when Steve Kerr first joined as the head coach. And this is what they're going to pride themselves on and rely upon going into the 2022 NBA Finals, of which, once again, I must reiterate, the Golden State Warriors will be a participant in against either the Boston Celtics or against the Miami Heat. And y'all know I think it's going to be the Celtics. I said before the series started, I got Celtics in 6. I'm very much holding strong to that. But when you look at the Warriors these last few years, everybody talk about, the dynasty's over. Dynasty ended when they lost to Toronto in 2019. Oh, Kevin Durant is who pushed them over the top, even though they had literally 2 years before that just won a championship. And once KD left, and ship was sunk. Y'all know I love KD. I think he's one of the 5 best basketball players to play. I think he's one of the 15 greatest players who ever lived. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal talent. But the Warriors culture was never reliant on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant today is sitting at home. Or I should say still sitting at home after getting swept a month ago. His old team is 4 wins away from yet another championship. He chose the Warriors. He chose Kyrie and his weirdness over the Warriors. This is going to hurt KD's legacy before it's all said and done. And speaking of legacies, let's talk about the best player on the Warriors and a guy who I said back in February, when it's all said and done this season, will be recognized as the best basketball player in the world, and that's Steph Curry. Had an unbelievable Western Conference Finals. Averaged 24 a game. Was efficient. Got others involved. Only scored 14 points last night. It was a rough shooting night for Steph. But if you noticed, getting other guys involved. A lot of nice little bounce passes to Kevon Looney. Setting up Clay for some open threes. When the defense would collapse on the fast break, he'd kick it to Clay to get an open shot. That's what Steph does. That's what makes great players great. Is if the other team takes away your best skill, what can you do beyond that? Well, Steph can be a playmaker. Steph is a respectable, he's not a great, certainly not a great defender, not even close, but he's a respectable defender, plays good team defense, is a pretty good rebounder for a point guard, and is a phenomenal leader for that basketball team. Draymond Green's the heart and soul. We know about that. But Steph is what is the engine that makes the Golden State Warriors go. And we're seeing that once again. When you look at, let me go and take the glasses off. I guess y'all tired of that at this point. There's some pretty, not mind-blowing to me because I know how great Steph Curry is. I think y'all know how great Steph Curry is. But there's some numbers on Steph that are very, very interesting. Let's talk about first the list of players with multiple MVPs and 6 finals appearances in history. Okay, so you got that. They've won multiple regular season MVPs. Not a lot of guys have done that. Only now 14 with Jokic. 14 players have done that in NBA history, won multiple MVPs, and have made the finals 6+ times. That list is Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, LeBron James, Steph Curry. All of those guys we consider top 10 players. And here's something even better that I thought was really, really interesting. Kendrick Perkins tweeted this. And Kendrick Perkins has been really off and on the Warriors. I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is. Kendrick Perkins tweeted this. Multiple MVPs, multiple scoring titles, and multiple championships. Multiple MVPs, multiple scoring titles, multiple championships. That list: Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry. He's a part of that company now, folks. He wins a championship, and he'll go on the rare list of guys with 4 championships and multiple MVPs. Michael, LeBron, Kareem, Magic. This is what these guys have done. Russell, Duncan. Bird didn't do that. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant didn't do that. Shaq didn't do that. Hakeem didn't do that. All these guys some of these guys I hear better than Steph. Are they? Yeah, to the fact that he changed how basketball is played. Not many dudes can say that. There's certain guys that have changed the game. Wilt, Shaq, Michael, Allen Iverson, LeBron off the court. They've changed the game in different ways. I'm talking about literally changing how basketball is played. Watch a game in 2022 and watch a game from 2012, 10 years ago. Doesn't even look like the same game. Now, some could say, maybe it's too many threes. You can make a fair argument there. But these days, you have to be able to shoot the 3 ball. Have to. Unless you're Giannis and you're the most dominant player within 5 feet of the basket in the world since Shaq, you have to be able to shoot the 3. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You cannot be a great player, unless you're Giannis, if you can't shoot the 3. You've got to be able to, you don't have to be a great shooter, but can you knock it down occasionally? That's Steph. 2 MVPs, only unanimous MVP. That deserves points, right? One thing he has not crossed off the list, and this should have been crossed off years ago, in 2015, and in my opinion, in 2018, and that's not winning a finals MVP. Steph is going to check that box off this year. There's no question about it. And so, this is what makes the Warriors great. It's all about Steph. You need Draymond, no question. You need Clay. You need the depth. You need Steve Kerr. Frankly, I even think you need the fans. Dub Nation showed up and showed out once again last night at the Chase Center. Loudest home court in basketball. They're an average team without Steph. And so this is why I said all season long, when everybody's down the Warriors, I said, they're not healthy. They weren't healthy at any point in the season. At their highs, at their lows, they were not fully healthy. This is who they are. As Steph said last night, they're peaking. They're at their peak right now. And this is when you always want to peak. Playoffs going into the conference finals. And certainly into the NBA finals. My Golden State Warriors, 4 wins away for another NBA title. And continuing, not starting a new one, continuing a dynasty. Love every second of it. Loving every single second of it. I mean, when you think about guys like Klay Thompson, the man didn't play basketball for 2.5 years. Almost 1,000 days between NBA games for Klay Thompson. June 13th, 2019, all the way to January 9th of 2022. And he comes back last night and drops 32 points. This is who Klay is. You hear Steve Kerr, you hear Steph. Steph even got emotional about it. The whole team is just thrilled for Klay Thompson. I mean, Ernie Johnson was, even said after he interviewed Klay after the game, he's, every basketball fan is happy for you. Yeah, absolutely. Member of Dub Nation or not, you're happy for Klay Thompson. The guy fought through an ACL tear. That's hard enough. Jamal Murray, we're seeing him having to fight through this ACL tear. And then have to fight through an Achilles? And have to go through another year-long rehab. Not getting to work on his game a whole lot in between appearances for him. But he's got that championship heart. That's what we talk about, the Warriors championship DNA. It's not a cliche. Strength of numbers, it's not a cliche. It's a real thing. You've got rookies who are making a big impact. Moody, Kuminga, I said before the season, Kuminga was the higher pick. Kuminga absolutely has a higher ceiling than Moses Moody, but I felt like Moses Moody would get more minutes in the playoffs because of his ability to shoot, because of the fact that, and again, it goes back to shooting. This is where Steph changed the game, where Moody's skill set is more well-equipped to help the Warriors today than Kuminga's is. Kuminga comes in for energy plays, running the floor. That's his role right now. Obviously, that's going to increase as he gets better. Kid's like 19 years old, right? He's only going to get better. And that's the scary thing about these Warriors. And you got Dylan Brooks bumping his gums, talking about, they're getting old. Which, Steph's 34. Didn't LeBron almost win a scoring title at 37? I don't know about that old thing. Klay Thompson's, 32? Draymond's about the same age. They're not even out of their primes yet. And they've got young talent getting better in Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody. Kevon Looney is going to stay. They're going to bring him back in free agency. Whew. Scary hours for the rest of the National Basketball Association. This was the year. This was the year for the Western Conference to dethrone the Warriors. Injury after this is why I don't want to hear about the Lakers talking about, Westbrook, LeBron, and AD didn't play enough together, and the Nets, Kyrie and KD didn't play enough together, and it's like Steph, Klay, and Draymond played 11 minutes in the regular season, and they're in the NBA Finals. Culture matters. Having that championship heart matters. Coaching matters. This is why they're here today. And this is why I believe in about week and a half, 2 weeks. You thought this celebration was fun? You have no idea what I got planned for when we host the Larry O'Brien Trophy. It's going to be epic. Y'all aren't going to want to miss that. It's funny when you talk about the Eastern Conference Finals now. Draymond Green was on Inside the NBA after the game, along with Steph Curry, and Shaq asked him, bluntly, he said, who's going to the finals? Who you guys going to play in the finals? This is what Draymond said.
Still undetermined who you're going to play in the next round. Who would you like to play?
I mean,
be honest.
I think both teams are tough. Boston causes problems, especially offensively.
Draymond.
Their defense is incredible.
How long we been boys, Draymond? I want an honest answer, Draymond.
You're asking me who I want to play. I'm gonna tell you who I think we're gonna play. We're gonna play Boston.
Okay,
That's who we're gonna play.
Thank you. That's the Draymond I know. That's the Draymond I know.
Shaq was loving every second of that celebration. He had his air horn, and Shaq has embraced the Bay Area. If only he could have played for us. But that Draymond perfectly segues into Boston, Miami, and I got a lot of friends in Miami. Great city, great basketball team. It's over. It's over. Tyler Hero is questionable. We don't know if he's going to play again. Tip-offs in about a couple hours. We'll give you any updates, any injury updates that we have before then. But as it stands right now, Tyler Hero's iffy. Jimmy Butler's got, bad knees. Bam Adebayo has gotten shut down by Robert Williams. The only good game that Bam has had was when Robert Williams missed in Game 3. Bam Adebayo scored 31 points. And Vegas is lockstep in agreement with me and with Draymond Green, because they got the Boston Celtics at home as 8-point favorites. It was 8.5. They've lowered it down to 8 about 10 minutes ago. Bottom line, they love Boston. And they should. Because, and this is why I said coming into the series, both teams are well coached, both teams are great defensively, and I didn't feel like home court would be that important. Even though Miami had come into the conference finals having, obviously they hadn't lost a home game in the playoffs, Boston's a team that can go win on the road. They've proven that. They did it in Brooklyn. They did it in Milwaukee. They can do it in Miami. And so I didn't feel like that was going to be a factor. What was going to be the tiebreaker, the difference maker? Boston's got more shot makers than Miami does. Jimmy Butler, if you say he's the best shot maker on the Heat, and I'd probably agree with you, it's up and down. You could have a 30-point game, and he could have a 10-point game. You never really know with Jimmy. And I love Jimmy. You guys, Jimmy's one of my favorite players. Love this guy. But the inconsistency is kind of concerning. Tyler Hero, even in the games he was playing, could not throw it in the ocean. I gave you guys the stat. Max Strus and Kyle Lowry, the starting backcourt for the Miami Heat. In the last two games, they've shot a combined 1 for 28 from the field. Like 3% or something. I mean, terrible. So you're not getting good backcourt play out of Lowry and Strus. Gabe Vincent hasn't given you much. You had Victor Oladipo. You saw that play last night, or I'm sorry, the other night, where he shoots the three, doesn't even hit the rim. They get the offensive rebound. I think PJ Tucker got the offensive rebound. Gabe Vincent not with a nice swing pass to the left to Oladipo again, and he didn't even hit the rim again. 2 straight shots by Oladipo in like a 10-second span where that ball doesn't even touch the rim. He misses so badly. So his confidence is off. PJ Tucker, again, he gives you great hustle plays. His tenacity on the offensive glass is unbelievable. I love the way PJ Tucker plays the game. But he'll hit a couple threes a game at best. You're not really relying on him for offense. And so the only way for Miami to win is in sort of an ugly, muck-it-up type of game. Boston can win that way, as they showed the other night, and they can outscore you. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are better than anybody Miami has in terms of creating their own shot. And you have shooters such as Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard. You have good interior presence with Robert Williams and Al Horford, and even Tice when he comes in the game. Derek White is a phenomenal defensive guard. Look, Marcus Smart's the defensive player of the year. Derek White isn't that far behind. That dude plays his tail off on the defensive end of the floor and can give you offense here and there. Marcus Smart can knock down an open three. Miami just doesn't have a lot of guys that can do that. And so why should I believe losing the last 2 games the way they have, pretty much in blowout fashion, including at home in Game 5, that they're going to go on the road to Boston, one of the more intense home courts in the NBA, and win that game and force a Game 7? I mean, I don't even feel like if Miami were to pull this off, I'm still taking Boston in Game 7. I mean, Boston, albeit they were at home the last Game 7 they played the defending champs, even missing Chris Middleton. Giannis was doing what he was doing. We saw his numbers from that series. They were ridiculous. Drew Holiday impacting the game on the defensive end of the floor. And Boston rolled them. Led by my guy Grant Williams. Rolled them. They can go on the road to Miami and win again. Absolutely. So I think Boston wins tonight. Frankly, I think it's not going to be horribly close. And by tonight, we're going to have all of our shows set up to talk about a Golden State Warriors Boston Celtics NBA Finals. I thought that this was what we were going to get in 2019, but Kyrie kind of imploded in those playoffs against Milwaukee. There's been years where we've come close to a Golden State Celtics Finals, but it just hasn't really worked itself out. But today, it's looking pretty likely. Sorry to Miami. I will say this about the Heat, though. They're not in the position that the Sixers are in or that even the Nets are in today. They're not in quicksand, but there's some moves you got to make in the offseason. You're already great defensively. Miami's always great defensively. But you have got to bring more guys in the building, either via trade or free agency, that can create their own shot. Even Golden State, with their constant ball movement, we know Steph can create his own shot. Jordan Poole can do that. Wiggins can do that. Even Clay can. Clay can put on the floor and, hit a stop pull-up jumper. Absolutely. So, Moses Moody's more of a catch-and-shoot guy, but he can go to the rim. So that's a question for Miami moving forward. But this game's going to tip off in about, a couple hours from now on ESPN. Boston's an 8-point favorite. I would probably stay away from that. I don't have the guts to take the Celtics in a blowout just because if it were like 6, if it like -6, I'd be like, okay, I'll take that. But in these games, with garbage time, you never know. That's the bad part about betting in Vegas. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take the Boston Celtics to win pretty easily tonight. And it's going to be a Dubs Celtics finals, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great series. Of course, I'm going to take my Dubs. I said the Dubs going to win the championship back in August. I said back in August. So why on earth would I back off that now in June? Absolutely not. Man, I'll tell you, that was a fun night last night. Getting to enjoy my team advancing to the finals yet again. And that's the thing. Again, with going back to sort of the discussion with Steph that I was talking about. I don't get why it seems like, and I'm not a huge, give him respect where he's there, but I've never really understood the fact why Steph hasn't gotten the respect that other guys get. Everybody, it's almost like a consensus that Kevin Durant is better than Steph. You know me, I've always been a KD fan back to his days in OKC. But has he ever been, you heard Charles Barkley talk about it a month ago. Has he ever been the driver of a championship team? It does not diminish his rings. I'm not about that. You win a championship, you're a champion. That's the one thing I didn't like about what Chuck said. Talking about don't be walking around acting like you're a champion. He is a champion. So you can't say that, especially coming from Chuck. But Kevin Durant was never the engine that made the Warriors go. KD would go down. I mean, check the Warriors record when Steph played and KD didn't, and vice versa. They were fine without KD. We remember back in 2019 when he got hurt in the second round against Houston. Golden State won the last 2 games of that series. He missed the entire Western Conference Finals. No big deal. They swept Portland. I still hold the belief. He came back, obviously, and unfortunately tore his Achilles in Game 5 in 2019 against the Raptors. I still hold to the belief that if Klay Thompson does not tear his ACL, it's definitely going to Game 7. I think they win the series because I think at that point, after having a 3-1 lead, Toronto would have been so kind of shell-shocked. Golden State's like, kind of play with house money at this point. Down 3-1 on the road. They're feeling the pressure. Let's go win this. We've been here. They have it. Heck, they almost beat Toronto without Klay. So with Klay and the way he was playing in that Game 6, I think Golden State wins that championship in 2019 without KD. Everybody talks about, KD going down sunk the Warriors. No, Klay going down sunk the Warriors. That's what it came down to. Man, I can't wait for the finals. Moving to the NFL for just a second. And these last few weeks, because of the playoffs, this has been a weird playoffs. We haven't had like a close game since... Man, I'm trying to think of the last close game in the second round. Because we haven't had a close conference finals game. Every Western Conference Finals game was won either in a blowout or pretty comfortably. And the Eastern Conference Finals, same thing. Hopefully we get a close Boston-Miami game. But I try to, sneak an NFL topic in here. And let's talk about, I hate to have to taint this show, a very celebratory mood of the show with the Dallas Cowboys. But I have to. Bryson, why you talk about the Cowboys? Same reason I talked about Colin Kaepernick yesterday. They're interesting. The Cowboys more interesting than the Miami Dolphins. It is what it is. But, I'm a very weird, I call myself a supporter, not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's probably not going to make my friends over at the Cowboys Cam fan. Shout out to those guys. They got a phenomenal podcast. It's not going to make them very happy. But my thing has always been, I used to be a Cowboy fan. I still support the team, but that's because of one man only. That's Dak Prescott. If Dak left tomorrow, I'm leaving with him. If he goes to San Francisco, then I'm a Niners fan. I'm going to say bang, bang, Niner gang on this show. Okay? So, Dak Prescott, OTA is going on across the NFL. And Dak did a media availability the other day. And he talked about that this is the first offseason that he's had to, in a while, in years actually, to really work on his body, work on his game. His exact quote was, he said he's as healthy as ever after focusing on, quote, working on his whole body this spring rather than rehabbing a specific injury. He said, quote, throwing this morning and leaving that session, pumped up just the way I feel. The leg feels, the arm feels, the body feels. Yeah, I'm excited. And so my thing is with Dak Prescott, and I'm not going to use the injuries from last year as an excuse. Because he did have some games. See the first game against Washington, the Giants the following week, the Chiefs, Denver. He had some games where he didn't play horribly well. But there were some games where he got crushed for. Arizona, the Raiders game, that I defended him completely for. Because I said defense couldn't get stops, offensive line couldn't protect, they couldn't run the football. Hard to win a game in the NFL when that goes on. And, by the way, you've got a liability at head coach. But I do think this season, and this is really kind of what makes my decision, what gives me a gut feeling today in May, that the Cowboys are going to barely edge out the Eagles. Like, it's going to come down to the last game of the season to win the NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles got a better football team today. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. What bothers me about the Cowboys year in and year out is everybody overrates the roster. I've said over and over since week 17 of last season, they've got 2 players that I would deem special. To me, you got to have a lot of special players to win a championship. You look at the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford's special. Cooper Kupp special. So was Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. Those are special players. Yeah, and you had a special coach in Sean McVay and a great coaching staff. So that's what that comes down to. John just says sign Cap. I'd be down for it. I think he's a good fit to be Dak's backup. But John, you know how Jerry is. That's never going to happen. I'd be for it, but you know how Jerry is. Yeah, you know how Jerry is. And that's something else that Dak's got to deal with, is the liability of having an impulsive owner. So, but I think I said Dallas has 2 special players. It's Dak and it's Micah Parsons. Micah, dude just jumps off your screen. We know what this guy could do. The man won Defensive Rookie of the Year unanimously. Like it wasn't even, nobody else even got a vote. And, they call him the Lion Backer. Part of that's probably because he played at Penn State with the Nittany Lions. And part of that was because, he plays like a lion. But something that I thought was really interesting, I saw some stats the other day that Dak was the best quarterback in football against the blitz this season. That's sort of important. And I saw another stat that's really interesting as well about Dak Prescott. We talked about, I was the ringleader of this narrative. And we all talked about, especially in the playoffs. Man, Joe Burrow's offensive line's awful. Awful. And it was. It was horrible. And the Bengals, to their credit, have done some things in the offseason to sort of correct that. Matter of fact, they actually took one of Dak's offensive linemen, Lyle Collins, to add to their line. So, credit to them. But Joe Burrow this season, as horrible as that offensive line was, he never had a game this season where he was pressured 20 or more times. Dak had 2. Joe's offensive line was horrible. Dak's got an offensive line that has 2 Hall of Famers on it. Problem is they're out of their prime and get hurt often. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin. Both are absolute future first ballot Hall of Fame guys. Not the same dudes they used to. At this point, they're Jags. Just a guy. They're guys. Still productive, but guys. Zach Martin's still pretty darn effective in the run game. Not a great pass blocking guard. This is what Dak's got to deal with. Despite that he's got an inferior offensive line to Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, a receiving core that's probably on par with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia now that they got A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown's better than anybody the Cowboys got because I'm not horribly high on CeeDee Lamb. I got to see a lot more from CeeDee Lamb to see that he's a true number 1 in this league, especially after the Cowboys passed on Justin Jefferson to take CeeDee Lamb. And you see what Justin Jefferson's doing. He's got an inferior defense to Jalen Hurts. You saw what the Eagles did in the draft and in free agency this offseason. They got, to me, the 2 best players from that Georgia Bulldogs defense last year. A Georgia defense that, held opponents to 10 points a game and shut down Alabama in the national championship game. To me, the 2 best players, the guys that just jumped across the screen at me, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. Philadelphia got both. That doesn't happen much. Nakobe Dean, obviously they took Phillips in the first round. They took Jordan Davis in the first round, and Nakobe Dean, due to some injury concerns, fell. So that's kind of a concern for them in that regard. But if he's healthy, he is a game changer, and they got an absolute steal in this guy. John just says he's got Philly. Don't blame me at all. Better coaching staff. Not as easy of a schedule as the Cowboys, but certainly out the gates an easier schedule than the Cowboys. I mean, Dallas got to play Tampa and the Rams and the Bengals. So it's no joke out the gates. Philadelphia's schedule, I think they're favored to win like 8 of their first 9 games. So Vegas really likes Philly to start the season. But Dak Prescott is the only reason I do barely favor the Cowboys over the Eagles. And for the record, as I said last January, if the Cowboys win the division, and I think they will because Dak now has an actual offseason to get better, they'll get bounced in the first round by second place in the NFC West because they're going to be the 4 seed. Rams going to win the West. Bucks going to win the South. I think the Vikings are going to win the North. I don't know what there is to be excited about Green Bay this year. They lost the second best player in their team. They lost pass rushers. Offensive line isn't what it used to be, and receiving core, frankly, might be the worst in football along with New England. And even New England has made some slight upgrades. So, but out of that group, Dallas is going to be the 4 seed. They're going to play second place out of the NFC West, whether that's the Niners or the Cardinals, and they're getting bounced, as they tend to do, because of the fact that this is a pretty dysfunctional franchise. But I do think that this is going to be it's not going to be an MVP campaign because they're not going to win enough games. But I do think Dak Prescott is going to have the level of production even to a higher degree than he had last year. And last year, he had a career year. Threw the most touchdown passes in Cowboys history in a single season. Nearly threw for 5,000 yards. Had multiple big games against really good opponents. So, I like the Cowboys' chances to barely eke out the Eagles in this division because of Dak and partly because of Micah Parsons. Because Micah can flat out take over a game by himself. He's got that ability. Almost a little TJ Watt-ish. And then Rain Dakota Prescott. The thing I've always respected about him, and it's why I love Derek Carr in Vegas. Steady, calm. Turn down the temperature in the room. And when it's all said and done, you win a lot of football games with them. We see what the Raiders are without Derek Carr. We see what the Cowboys, we saw what the Cowboys in 2020 were without Dak. Garbage. This is what's going to be. John likes Green Bay a little more than I do. He says, don't sleep on Green Bay. I'm in a coma on Green Bay. Because, yes, you got Aaron Rodgers coming back on a huge deal. But you lose a guy who might be the best receiver in football. It would not be as devastating if Green Bay had a good number 2. For example, let's look at the Rams. Okay, let's use an example last year. Let's look at the Los Angeles Rams. Last year, the Super Bowl champs. If Cooper Kupp goes down, that is a massive loss for the Rams. But you would still have Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Odell, right? Van Jefferson. You still have respectable targets. Aaron Rodgers' number 1 receiver is Alan Lazard. He had 600 yards last year. That's their 1 now. Sammy Watkins there too. Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy to save his life. Sammy Watkins has number 1 ability, but we never even saw that when he was with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid last year. John just says the kid they drafted was going to have a 1,000-yard season. I don't know. Because even Devontae, great as he is, it took him about 3-4 years to really develop into, that guy, into a guy that we may consider the best receiver in football. His rookie year, Devontae Adams was the number 3 receiver behind Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. He really came into his own around like 2017-18 and really broke through in 2019. So it's going to take a minute. So now you can, John just said, yeah, Sammy would have died. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work with Green Bay right now. It doesn't. They signed Jair Alexander to a long-term deal. I couldn't believe the Packers paid money to a free agent, or a guy who was going to be a free agent, rather. That they don't do that much. But they did, and they should have. Jair Alexander's a phenomenal corner. They brought back Rasul Douglas, I believe, who had a big breakout season last year after kind of bounced around the league a little bit. But it's not even a matter of thinking Kirk Cousins is better than Aaron Rodgers, because obviously he's not, or even trusting Kirk Cousins over Aaron Rodgers, although I could argue in the postseason they're on equal footing. But that's what it comes down to. I think I liked Minnesota's coaching hire. Dalvin Cook's back. Adam Thielen's back. Justin Jefferson's still just getting better. He's still a kid. And you look at what he's already done in this league. They improved on the defensive side of the football. Offensive line, Minnesota's going to be a problem. Now, I don't think they're necessarily a contender. I personally think the NFC North might be the worst division in football. It's pretty thin. I think Chicago's going to have an awful year. I think they're setting up Justin Fields for failure with this new coaching hire, losing Allen Robinson. Chicago's a train wreck. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I wouldn't be shocked if Chicago finished behind Detroit. And Detroit, we know what they are. Like the NFC North, it's a 2-team race. It's Green Bay and it's Minnesota. I'm taking Minnesota. Better roster. Frankly, the coaching, I think, is equal footing. I've never been a big Matt LaFleur guy. My guy Barry from the All Even podcast, shout out to him. He calls him Matt LaChoke. It's an apt nickname. Has shown an inability to really make big key decisions in big games. We saw that in the NFC Championship game against Tampa. We saw that against the Niners this year. We saw him get completely outcoached 3 years ago in the NFC Championship game against Kyle Shanahan. Could not stop the run. So I'm not high on Matt LaFleur either. I'm not high on this Green Bay team to slice. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I really do. I think the playoffs in the NFC are going to go, maybe not necessarily in this order. The division winners, again, will be Rams, Bucks, Vikings, Cowboys, and then the wild card teams will be Philly. Arizona, I'm starting to have some reservations on because of this whole Kyler Murray situation. I kind of like New Orleans this year. I'm possibly, giving them the edge to maybe get in the playoffs. I think the Niners get in. And I'm going to give Washington a puncher's chance on getting in. Even though we know Carson Wentz ain't that dude. Because guy had the perfect roster last year and couldn't even get into the playoffs. Forget the division, couldn't even get into the playoffs. So that's the only reservation I have for Washington. That and the fact that they've got a pretty cruddy owner. Man, I can't wait for the NFL. I was thinking about that earlier today. I cannot wait for the NFL to come back this season. I mean, the NFL in their marketing campaign last year, they talked about the 2021 season. This is going to be the greatest season in NFL history, in part because it was the return of fans to stadiums and all the offseason changes and this and that. And it was a great year. The playoffs were probably the best I've ever seen. We had, the last 7 playoff games were all classics. And, that doesn't happen much. Obviously that divisional round was just nutso. It might be even better this year. This 2022 season, it might be even better this year. The quarterback movement, the player movement, it's going to be fun. And the Cowboys, while not championship contenders, still going to be hanging around there. And we're still going to talk about them. We're going to talk about Jerry, McCarthy, Dak, the fans, everything. It's like clockwork. Don't get your hopes up, Cowboys fans. Please, not winning the Super Bowl this year. Okay? Just put that to the side. It ain't happening. Not with this coach. And not with this owner. Definitely. All right. Sticking in the city of Dallas. I think it's appropriate to do so. Sticking in the great city of Dallas, Texas. The team that just fell to my Golden State Warriors. Luka Doncic, who is without a question one of the 5 best basketball players on earth. Had a great postseason without a doubt. And I said a lot of the Western Conference Finals in terms of his inability to make shots, a lot of that was the fact that Golden State has so many bodies that they can throw at him. I already mentioned Wiggins, Clay, Draymond, Looney, Kuminga. They can put those guys on him. But 2 things that the Warriors did do that I think the rest of the league is going to take notice of. 2 things the Warriors exposed Luka on. Number 1, defense. We knew he wasn't a great defender to begin with, but it looks like at times the guy wasn't even trying. Some of that was, and God, I really like Luka as a basketball player, but this drives me crazy when he does this. He'll go up, there's contact, he misses the shot, and then he just goes on and on and on with the refs, like does not stop, goes for 5 straight minutes, and then when he does get a call, he yells at the ref because he didn't make the call before. And so Luka will go up, not be able to not finish at the rim, not get a foul call, and not run back on defense. Now, we could talk about Draymond Green. You could say, well, your guy Draymond does the same thing. He runs back on defense. He'll yell something at the official that I won't repeat on this show, but he'll get back on defense. You're not expecting Luka to be the guy that Draymond is, but you want him to get that same level of effort. And you're not expecting Luka to be, Michael Jordan in terms of defense, but he's got to give you something. That's one thing I respect about Steph Curry. He is by no means a great defender. But the dude does play his butt off on that end of the floor. And it pays off at times. You saw in game 1 of the second round against Memphis, Steph made the defensive play of the game by stripping Ja Morant, ripping the basketball right out of his hands. Steph can have the occasional nice defensive play. But that would happen unless he did put that effort in. Luka's got to put that effort in, especially now. Especially now. He's only 23. Yeah, everybody talks about LeBron's not a great defender. Well, part of that's because he's in year 18, year 19. You know, he is 36, 37. I'm not really expecting him to be a great defender at this stage of his career. I'm not expecting really anybody to be a great defender at that stage in their career. But when you're young, you know, you don't have to be a Akeem Olajuwon, but could you give me something? Because he got fresh legs. And part of that was because of the fact Luka came into the season again out of shape. Jason Kidd has talked about it, his own head coach. Obviously the media has talked about it. It's been kind of this narrative like, Luka didn't show up in shape, and it took him a good 2 months to play himself into shape. It wasn't really until around January that Luka looked like Luka. So this offseason, better nutrition, conditioning, all those things of that nature. Again, he doesn't have to look like a Giannis Antetokounmpo physically, but take care of your body. Don't make the same mistake James Harden did and rely on just pure God-gifted skill and athleticism, and then when you get older and that wanes, you're not the same player. It's part of why Steph is still great at age 34. It's outside of, he's in that same group with guys like LeBron and KD in terms of keeping his body in phenomenal shape. Steph even put about 10 pounds of muscle on these last couple of years so he could be able to go inside more and take contact better and reduce the risk of injury. So Luka's got to do that. And then the second thing, and I noticed this especially in the Western Conference Finals. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Luka, when he's got a cushion, 5, 6, 7-point lead late in games, he is a more than willing passer. To Finney-Smith, Kleba, getting Jalen Brunson an opportunity to get the ball one-on-one and go to work. Dinwiddie, he's a more than willing passer certainly the first 3 quarters, and even in the fourth when he's got a good cushion. But late in these games, if he's down 3, if he's down 7, and the game is not over, he just goes into desperate hero ball, jacking threes. Luka's not a good three-point shooter. He shot 34% from 3 in this Western Conference Finals. He shot 3 for 13 last night. He's not a good three-point shooter. But he's jacking threes. He's taking difficult shots. It's a little Westbrookian, as I said yesterday. He plays more in control, more so than Westbrook, but sort of a desperate hero ball type of thing. He's got shot makers. Bertans, you talk about live by the 3, die by the 3. Davis, I think is how you say his name. Bertans, I think shot 1-2 in this series. He knows his role. He's a catch and shoot 3-point guy. That's what he does. Luka's got to trust him and the other guys they have around him. Dallas was a live by the 3, die by the 3 type of team, and Luka would tend to sort of go away from that in terms of getting the other guys involved. This is what elevated Michael Jordan, to me, what truly elevated him into the greatest player of all time. He averaged 37 points a game one year. He was winning MVPs. He was winning Defensive Player of the Year trophies. His best individual season was 1988. It's one of the greatest seasons any player's ever had. But when Phil Jackson came in and got Michael to buy into the triangle offense and getting the others involved, your Shaq all the time talk about the others, Michael Jordan getting the others involved, all of a sudden he's fitting himself for a ring every summer. That stuff matters. Twice it won him a finals. John Paxson against the Phoenix Suns, and Steve Kerr against the Utah Jazz. Trusting the other guys. Luka's got to be able to do that. Does anybody mistake, Paxson or Kerr as Hall of Famers? Steve Kerr's gonna be a Hall of Famer. It's not gonna be for being a player. It's gonna be for his job as a coach. They don't respect, they don't look at those two guys as all-time greats, nor should they. Nobody's looking at anybody on Dallas except for Luka as an all-time great. And they don't necessarily have to be, I think. They fit well with Luka's skill set. Luka's just got to trust him more. So Dallas, this is going to be a really interesting offseason for Dallas. I heard Charles Barkley talking about last night. He compared this Mavericks team to last year's Atlanta Hawks team. Remember, made that run. Trae Young played phenomenal. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals, lost to Milwaukee. Milwaukee went on to win the championship. And we're thinking, hey, Atlanta's going to be back. And, they needed the play-in to get in the playoffs. And then they got absolutely smoked by Miami in the first round. And it kind of came back down to earth a little bit. And Chuck was talking about, is that going to be the same case for Dallas? Because he said, the Clippers are going to get Kawhi back. They're going to be a factor. He said the Lakers are going to make moves. I'm not sure what moves the Lakers can make. Golden State's going to be back. You look at Memphis is getting better. They got a young team. Phoenix, if they bring everybody back, they'll fall to Golden State or maybe before then. But they're still formidable. So there's a lot of question marks right now with Dallas moving forward. I think they are going to make some notable moves in this offseason, and we'll see where it goes from there. They're going to have to bring back Brunson, I think. And then what do they do from there? We'll see. But again, to the Dallas Mavericks, excellent season. No question about it. Nobody thought they'd get here. I'm going to look at the standings to hold myself accountable here. I always keep my predictions from October. Here's my Western Conference standings. I had Dallas as the 8th seed. There's my standings right there from when I from when myself and John did our NBA predicting show back in October on opening night. I had Dallas as the 8th seed. And I don't have the graphic here, but I had them losing in the play-in tournament. So I didn't even have Dallas making the playoffs. Silly me. Right? Well, they just got to the Western Conference Finals. So there's certainly something to build off of, but they can't going into next season act like, okay, we're just going to pick back right where we left off. You can't really do that. In the stage of development that they're at, you can't really do that. And ultimately, look, Luka didn't shoot horribly well. Actually, he didn't shoot at all well in this series. He shot 41% for the field and 34 from three. That's, that's not great. But look, they lost to a dynasty. A lot of teams lost to a dynasty. Ask the Lakers, the Portland Trailblazers, the Phoenix Suns, the Seattle Supersonics, and the Utah Jazz. Great teams who lost to a dynasty in the Chicago Bulls. Ask the Pacers. Ask these teams that lost to the Philadelphia 76ers led by Allen Iverson. Ask those teams. When you run to a juggernaut, LeBron's been denied 3 rings by this same team, by this same dynasty. It is what it is. Hate us because they ain't us, man. I'll tell you what, though. Next week's going to be a great week of shows because obviously got a lot of finals previews. Wednesday's going to be fun. I'm not doing a show Wednesday, but Wednesday's going to be fun because it's finals media day. And so getting to hear from the players. I don't know if Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel's show is going to be there asking the players, horrible questions. I remember he did a few years ago with the Warriors, and it was hilarious. Media day is always fun, so we'll probably react to some stuff that guys say. I have a feeling Draymond Green's going to have a few noteworthy quotes that we'll discuss on Thursday, but even on Monday, we're going to have a lot to talk about. Certainly by Monday, regardless if the season the series, the Eastern Conference Finals continues after tonight, we're going to have the answer to what the finals will be by Monday. If it goes to Game 7, that's going to be played on Sunday. So Eastern Conference Finals reaction on Monday. More Warriors talk, of course, because I ain't going to shut up about my team because we in the finals again. We ain't going nowhere. You already know what it is. All right. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. And also be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Anchor on the Carving It Up podcast. And episode 7 of the Carving It Up U.S. President's Edition will be available tomorrow morning. Sorry I wasn't able to do the promotion for episode 6 last week. And, when you're at the happiest place on earth in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, it's hard to focus on other things. But But episode 6 is available now. Episode 7 will be available tomorrow. We're going to talk about probably in terms of the greatest presidents in our history, some of the best are in this episode. You know, we're talking Harry S. Truman and Eisenhower and Kennedy, Johnson, you know, the scandals of Nixon, and finishing off with Gerald Ford. This is a very interesting episode. This is one of my favorites that my co-host Isaac Lawson and I recorded. So be sure to check that out tomorrow on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and on YouTube. So until Monday, I'll be celebrating. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Please stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. We back. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.